had a little bit of a different approach when I left Fairfield, and I was in the medical device field for a short bit prior to going into our current field, which is short-term MEP field, which is mechanical, electrical, plumbing field. So we're consulting services that we pertain to different jobs and projects throughout the country, and customize environment. I worked in New York City for 2 years prior to coming back to Connecticut. Worked at another firm for a few years prior to coming to consulting in Milltown.
So like Cody said, we design HVAC systems, we design plumbing, we design electrical systems, commercially and residentially. Cody and I both work in the commercial sector of our company. And our company also has, I believe, 5 offices now. So we work in our Connecticut office, which is our hub. Then we also have a New York, a Massachusetts, Montana, Florida, and Texas. So 6 offices actually. So we have a wide variety of work, and we work all over the country. Cody and I specifically work on a lot of like hospitals, schools, hotels, different things like that. I personally am a plumbing and fire protection engineer here, so I focus mostly on the fire protection and plumbing side, but Cody does mechanical, so he can talk about what he does.
Yeah, so I do a lot of the mechanical HVAC work. So I'll do everything from cooling towers, large chillers, air handlers, pump sets, everything that pertains to the air handling systems and ventilation systems of large buildings and structures.
So in our industry, passing your FE exam, which is the first step to getting your PE license, and then getting your PE license is very important, just because we're a design aspect. So when we design different buildings, we'll put out drawings, and we actually have to have a professional engineer stamp all of our drawings before they can go out to bid and actually go into construction. So what we're going to talk about today is definitely very important in our industry, but it's not necessarily a necessity in all of industry.
Yeah, that's a good point. So what Mackenzie was referring to as a stamp, it quite literally is, even given today with our advancements in technology and things like that. Our product, what we produce, is a set of drawings, which will then go to construction. And each trade, whether it's mechanical, electrical, plumbing, fire protection, will then be built off of those drawings that we create. So we work hand in hand with architects. And on the architectural side, they get stamped by a certified architect with PE. And then our side gets stamped with the PE. So what the stamp actually means is that it certifies that what's on the drawing is ethically correct. It's done properly for managing fire protection, for life safety. Things like proper lighting outputs for passive egress and ventilation requirements for code. So everything that we do is based off of code. We have very strict code compliancy that we have to abide by, and that our designs will then satisfy. So that stamp that's provided by a PE with the PE's name and then the state just certifies that what we did is correct, and that we stand by our design, and that we're submitting it for permitting and filing with the given state or municipality that we did our job correctly.
Yeah, so in order to get your PE license, you first have to pass what's called the FE exam, the Fundamentals of Engineering, or people also refer to it as the EIT exam, which is Engineering and Training, correct? So that will be the first step, and that's what mostly Cody and I are going to focus on today, because this is the test that you guys are all eligible to start taking now, actually. So you can start thinking about it once we give you more information on it. And definitely after this presentation, feel free to reach out to Cody or I in the future if you have any questions about anything that we talk about. But the main focus is going to be on this Fundamentals of Engineering exam. Do you want to start?
Yeah, so I guess really quick, I know it sounds kind of daunting. You're all seniors. You're approaching, the end of your senior year, and completing your courses in college. And now you have two people within the industry saying, "Oh, but wait, there's more testing that you have to do." So I understand like that's a little bit daunting, but this, much like college, what the EIT and your PE down the road will do is it's going to further set you apart from your peers and what your capabilities can bring you in the field. And like Mackenzie pointed out earlier, is that there's different parts, and depending on where you go in engineering, certain industries are much more geared towards requiring your EIT and your PE as opposed to others. Typically in manufacturing, there's not much of a requirement for a PE or an EIT, whereas in the construction field that we're in, there's a heavy requirement for it. Maybe requirement's not the proper term, but a much more of a need for it. It's more of an asset to have, or another tool for you. So the FE exam or the EIT, definitely it's something that we recommend you do fresh out of college. I am no longer fresh out of college, and trying to study for topics that you learn in college while you have them fresh in your mind will certainly be an advantage of yours. To take that exam when everything is fresh and you're still in school mode. Just get it done and out of the way, and then you can start working towards that next step of eventually getting your PE, or stop at your EIT. Your EIT is certainly a wonderful stepping stone and another certificate that you can add to your resume and your professional career portfolio.
Yeah, so to just bring it down to basics, if you aren't really sure what we're talking about, what the fundamentals of engineering or the EIT exam entails, it's basically a test that's an accumulation of everything that you have learned in your 4 years of college. So basically, if you think about taking like a small quiz like every week in all of your classes and having similar problems like that put into one test in one sitting that you take on a computer all at once, just to show that like you have the knowledge behind your degree. So the test comes in, I think, 7 different options. So you can take a mechanical FE exam, you can take an environmental, you can take an electrical, a civil, a chemical, an industrial and systems, or they do have an other type of exam. So you can choose which type of exam you take. So for instance, for me, I'm out of college a few years now. I did mechanical engineering. So when I take my FE, I'm going to take the mechanical FE exam. But if you were an electrical engineer in college and that was your focus, it may make more sense for you to take the electrical FE exam. It's a personal opinion. You get to choose that. It's not based on your major. So even if I'm a mechanical engineering BS degree, I can take the electrical FE exam if I wanted to. So it's up to you. And different people in our company have taken different exams. So it's your comfort level, but I would suggest looking into each one and the topics to determine which would be the best exam for you to take.
And what the difference is pretty much in those different disciplines, whether it's chemical, electrical, industrial, mechanical, what have you, it depends on how the different questions are allocated and the ratio of those questions in the test itself. So the test will have all disciplines will be on the exam. It just depends on how many questions are on that exam for a given discipline. So mechanical, understandably, will have more mechanically based questions such as heat transfer, thermodynamics, statics, and dynamics on it, as opposed to civil questions or chemical. They're still going to have civil questions on there, chemical questions, and electrical systems and circuitry on that exam that you'll be tested on. So certainly picking mechanical or electrical will not get you away from having to know those other disciplines as well that you learn in school. It just heavily gears them more towards mechanically based things. So likewise, my test would be mechanical as well, being that I have coming up on 7.5 years of experience in the mechanical field. I'll just be more geared that way. So that's how they kind of they differentiate the different exams. And as you get into studying, thankfully, there's a lot of material out there to help you with your studying. Right here, I have practice exams that you can get through the NCEES. We'll provide a link to that, and that's pretty much where everybody's FE and PE licensure will be done through. The testing is actually facilitated through the NCEES as well. And what that is, it's advanced licensing for engineers and surveyors. So even surveyors will be licensed through NCEES. So you can purchase different mechanical, electrical, industrial, chemical, what have you, practice exams, and you can work through the practice exams on your own time and prepare for the exam, which is really helpful. Reference handbooks and things like that, these are all obtainable through like Amazon or any other bookstore has them as well. And it's kind of a little intimidating to look at the thickness of the reference handbook, because that contains all of the information that you need to know for the FE exam. And then they also sell manuals as well, review manuals, which is super helpful, and I'll walk you through step by step for the different types of exams and things that you can come across, as well as give you an idea of the breakdown of the questions on the exam. So it'll walk through everything for you and kind of breaks it down as a step-by-step basis, so you can get a really good understanding of what to expect out of the exam, and how the grading is done through the exam and things like that, as well as chock full of everything from math to ethics, mechanical related items, circuitry, controls, feedback, everything that you could have come across in school. It will walk you back through it. So in the event that you don't necessarily remember the classes that you took your sophomore year, there are plenty of materials that will help walk you back through those things and refresh your memory into preparing for the exam.
And like Cody mentioned, so this test is going to be, I believe it's a 6-hour test. The test itself, they give you like 5 hours and 20 minutes. And you get some breaks as well. So if you need to use the bathroom or if you want to get a snack, it is a long period of time, and it can be mentally exhausting sitting there, staring at a screen, doing engineering for 6 hours straight. So they do allow you to have breaks. But in doing so, since it's an online computer-based test, Cody has it in paper over here, but they do provide you with a reference handbook during the test, and it will be on the computer as well. So you can actually search. So you could hit like Control F and search for different terms that you relay to different questions that they're asking. So if you're doing heat transfer and you're looking for a specific equation, when you're studying, you want to learn those terms that you can search. So easily on the test, when you get to one of those problems, you can search the term that you're looking for, find the equation, do the problem, and move on to the next one. So a big tip is to learn the reference handbook while you're studying it. You want to know where things are located. You want to know what words to look for, what variables to look for, and get an idea of what equations go with what types of questions, because that will be a very helpful resource while you're taking the exam.
And that's a good point, because half of the battle is not only understanding, where everything is in an almost 500-page reference manual that will contain every bit of information that you need to get to your answer, the proper answer on the exam, but how to get there and what to look for. So the different terms and things like that you're going to need to recall in order to get a specific formula or equation, much like an open book test, which I think I've only had a handful in my experience in school. Which you walk in there and you think that, oh, this is going to be much easier because it's an open book test, but you have to know what to look for. And that's really the key to it. So if you can work through the reference handbook and really get used to what to look for and the things that you need to answer a question, you'll be much better off when you go to take your exam. And being that it's digital, you can Control F and search through the entire reference handbook digitally and not have to thumb through all the pages.
And so this type of test will occur at a testing center around you. So when you log on to the NCEES link that Cody and I can send to you guys after this, they'll actually have a list of like all testing centers that offer the FE exam. So you'll pick a testing center that you're going to go to. And then there's different like rules and regulations, like you don't bring anything in with you except a calculator. And I know we're all used to using graphing calculators within our classes, but you actually aren't allowed to use a graphing calculator. So also on this website, it'll have a list of acceptable calculators that you can use. So a huge recommendation is while you're studying, buy that calculator and learn how to use that calculator. I know how to use my graphing calculator like I'm sleeping. I know everything about it, but this new calculator is different. Buttons will be in different locations. It can do different things. So you definitely want to purchase that calculator and get used to using it while you're doing these problems, because you're not going to have your fancy calculator that you've had all through college. And you don't think it's a big transition, but it definitely is when you start doing problems and you know how to use your calculator. You have different formulas loaded into your calculator, and now you don't have that. So you need to learn to use the reference book and the basic calculator to be able to get to the same solution that you're used to doing in college with your graphing calculator.
Yeah, definitely agree. Because I started to do the same thing when I got the actual calculator that's required or permissible for the exam. And then having to really fight through the calculator and look through the actual manual for the calculator, which I'm embarrassed to have to say.
I also did that.
Yeah, because it was not my TI-89.
Yeah.
It was a very dumbed down version, but it'll certainly get you that much better and further along when you go to take your exam. You're totally prepared for the tools that you have at your disposal in order to use. And one of the things that is really important about the exam is that I think the last metrics that I looked at, it had a 74% pass rate on the first attempt. It is, not, and most people that I know, I think you can attest to it too, don't pass on their first attempt, and that's okay. You can take it up to 3 times a year in a 12-month duration, and you just keep taking it. You prepare for it. You kind of find out where your shortcomings are and study more on those disciplines or those aspects, and then you prepare better for the next time and you pass it. I know a lot of PEs that have taken their exams several times. It's just kind of par for the course when you go to take a higher level testing like what this is.
And definitely one of the cool things about this exam is if you do take it and you do fail the first time, they actually will send you an overview of how you did on the test in each subject. So it'll tell you like, oh, I really need to work on studying more in thermo, but I was really good in heat transfer. So like I can lay off studying that as much. So it allows you to focus more on your weaker points based on like the first time you took the test, which is super helpful. And like Cody said, if you talk to multiple people in our office, they did not pass the first time. So it's definitely not something to be ashamed of at all. It's a mentally exhausting test. It's a lot of information, definitely hard to pass the first time. And it is helpful that they give you the breakdown so you can study and work on improving those sections that you may not have been super strong in the first time you took it.
And the grading is also interesting when it comes to the test too. The grading fluctuates. So Connecticut has a minimum passing rate or passing grade of a 70%, but that fluctuates based upon how the other population does on that given exam that you take. There's several different variations of the exam, but on your test day, you're all given the same variation of that exam. After the exam is completed and everybody submits their answers, a panel of reviewers go through all the metrics of the grading system of that exam period, and certain questions will be thrown out actually if enough people have gotten them wrong, if they thought that it was an unfair worded question or what have you. So it's not really a set in stone type grading structure, and it fluctuates here and there in order to accommodate the testing population, which is good. I mean, you don't want to have something that's you want it to pertain to the knowledge base of the people that you're taking the test with.
And like Cody mentioned before, this all may seem super daunting and super scary. And so everybody approaches studying this test differently. So you just need to figure out if you plan on taking this test, which we strongly recommend that everyone does. You just need to figure out like the best way to study for yourself. I know some people will create study groups with coworkers because in our industry, a lot of people are trying to get it. So it's nice maybe after work, 3 or 4 of you get together and study for an hour every night, or study for a half hour and go over problems that maybe Cody knows how to do, but I don't remember how to do anymore. So he can show me how to do them. So that's definitely like one avenue. Some people just like studying on their own, and that's how they study. And they go home every night and they make dinner and they study for an hour or two, and then they go to bed. And the duration of studying, some people study for 2 months and they feel like they know everything, they take it and they pass. And some people, it takes a full year to study everything. So it's really dependent on the type of person you are, the type of lifestyle you live. Some people will study once a week. Some people will study every night. It really depends on you as a person, and you don't want to drain yourself, and you don't want to overdo it. So it is a gradual process. This isn't something that you're just going to be able to do overnight. And I know some people like to just come out of college and take it without studying and see if they can pass. And if they pass, that's awesome, and they never have to go through the studying process. Or if they don't pass, now they know what to expect from the test, and they know what they need to study more on, and it puts them a level up. So it is a flexible studying process, and you kind of need to figure out what's best for you and your lifestyle and your family or whatever, to get through it.
Yeah, and just to kind of bring it back down to the basics is that, this test, although it's a very good test and it's a great certification to have under your belt and to aspire to be a PE one day, the nice thing about this is it's not required to be a successful engineer. I know several highly successful engineers, business owners that have never gotten their PE or taken their EIT, and they're still extremely successful people that are well respected within the field. This is just another certification that will open more doors to you as an engineer, and as you move forward in your career to do more with your engineering degree. That's really what it is.
Should we ask for questions before we move on to PE?
Yeah.
Does anyone, I know we just threw a lot of information at you. Does anyone have any questions on the FE exam itself or the process? Anything at all that we've talked about before we move on to the PE?
Yeah, I've got a question for you. Does your company pay for PE fees such as taking the exam and the renewals?
Yeah, so how our company does it, if you sign up for the FE, you pay yourself the $175, and then if you pass, they'll reimburse you the money.
And I just read that they increased by double the renewal fee. Is it up to $450 a year to stay active as a PE?
Actually, I've heard about that.
Yeah, I haven't heard that, so I'm not sure.
Yeah, it says today renewal fees are $450. I think Jody Rell or somebody like this said they were having a budget deficit, and they were even threatening to close down the Professional Engineering Society boards in Connecticut, but there was a lot of pushback on that. In Wyoming, where I have my PE, it's only $130. What a bargain. So if you want to stay active and renew for $450 a year, well, it seems to me it's better if the company pays for it, or if you have a reason to have it. If you don't have a reason to have it, it's an awful big overhead, I think.
Absolutely. Thankfully, our company will reimburse for our professional engineering licensure on a yearly basis, which is great. And it makes sense because our company recognizes that having your PE license and being a member of our company is extremely helpful for them. To have more PEs on board and to have the ability to have more people that can stamp as a PE is very advantageous for them. So it's a great incentive for us to get our licensure and to keep our licensure active. For the EIT, there are no yearly requirements in order to maintain your certificate as an EIT. However, as a PE, you do have to maintain a certain number of continuing education hours, or PIDs, professional development, PDEs,
Yeah.
professional development. So you have to maintain those, whether it's different forms of continuing education to make sure that you're up to speed with current topics and items within the engineering field and things like that you have to submit. on a yearly basis to make sure that you meet your minimum criteria of your PE hours. So that's just one, it's a small thing. It's not really anything crazy or difficult to hit, especially I know with our company, we do a lot of, we call them lunch and learns. So we do a lot of, we have a lot of vendors that come in and they'll talk to us about the advancements of the technology within our field and things like that. And then those are usable for PE hours, which is helpful. So you're actually gaining the hours, the requirement that you need to maintain your PE while at work, which is a great benefit.
I should let somebody else ask some questions. Are there any students who want to ask some questions?
I have a question. I have two questions actually.
Okay.
My first question is, in order to get your PE, do you have to take your FFEI, I believe it is, or your FE, or like basically, could you just jump in and take your PE straightforward?
Yeah, so good question. So you actually have to pass your FE exam prior to taking your PE exam. And you have to have 4 years of work experience once you pass your FE under a professional engineer. So if you get out of college and you take your FE exam, you have to work those 4 years before you're eligible to take that PE exam.
And the whole purpose of that, the 4-year minimum, is that there's a lot of responsibility, additional responsibility that comes with being a PE, not only on an ethical basis, but also as a knowledge basis. So you have to, it's a nice requirement that they have so that you have a minimum of almost 5 years of work experience to then operate as a PE within your field. So it limits, it kind of puts milestones in effect that will allow you to have that knowledge base within your industry and that experience to gain prior to getting your PE license. But that's a great question. Yes, you do need to have your EIT and pass it prior to gaining your PE license.
All right, thank you. And my second question is, what are some examples of a PD to go qualify of having those as working training hours, I believe you guys said?
So is that a question on like what an example of a PDE hour would be?
Correct.
So that would be anything from attending a course. We hold a lot of them here with just having vendors come in. So as mechanical engineers, we would have a vendor that comes in to talk to us about a new advancement on a cooling tower or chillers or a new refrigerant that's coming out in the market and how it will benefit the industry. Or we do a lot of geothermal here. So any relatable topic that'll help in your industry can qualify as those required hours. So typically we don't see many PEs that need to try to seek out additional hours in order to meet their minimum requirement for the year outside of what the company allows for within our company. We do a good job of maintaining our PE hours here without having to find courses outside of our office.
And like a lot of times we work closely with reps from different manufacturers for the different pieces of equipment that we supply to our buildings and in our design. And occasionally like the reps themselves will send like Zoom invites out for like a course that they're going to talk about and it's worth PD credits. And they always tell you if it's worth those credits because they know people in our industry need them and are working towards them because they have deadlines for when they need X amount of credits. So there's always opportunity within industry to find it. So like Cody said, it's not hard to get. You just have to be willing to sit through the lectures and sit through the talks and the different courses in order to gain them. And it's never a problem because we're sitting through them anyways, because we want to know the advancements in the different pieces of equipment and the different technology, because we want to give our owners and our clients like the best product and the best working building we can. So we always want to stay on top of that. So we're doing it anyways. It's just a benefit that we can get it through the different reps and clients and people that are coming into our office. Anyone
I
else?
have a question too. So for the FE exam, is it like you said, it's all online? Is it like multiple choice or is it like you solve the problems and fill in the blank? Like how is the format kind of?
So that's a really good question. So it's I'll answer in a short way saying yes, it's all of those. It's there are some, primarily it's multiple choice, but there are some open-ended questions that you have to fill out, and then also some, I hate to use the term matching, but to reorder certain things that are within, within the choice of selection in order to meet the requirement of the question. It does vary in its response, but most of them are multiple choice.
Okay, and I'm assuming like the practice exams like go through each type of like question kind of.
Yes, they do. Good question. Yeah, so the
Okay.
practice exams, so typically the way that they used to, do it, and I remember during my time at Fairfield University, some of our, as we approached our later years in school, a lot of the professors would include older PE exam questions on the end of our exams to kind of get a feel for what the questions are going to be. And they're really not that different from what you're going to see on an exam in any one of your classes as it is. But the exam or the practice test will go through and give you the full gamut of what you're going to see on the test. Half the time, these old practice exams or these practice exams are older FE exams that they have shelved or no longer using, or just older style questions that they don't show on the actual exams now, but they're still more than adequate to give you an idea of what you can see on the FE exam.
Thank you. And then I had one more question. Does it matter the like state you take like the FE or the PE exam in?
Sometimes. There are certain reciprocities between states, but most of the time it's you pay a fee and you can get your license in the state that you either reside in or you work in. I know a lot of our PEs we carry multiple states.
Yeah, so since we do work all over the country, we have to have somebody with a PE license in every single state that we're going to be doing work in, because we need somebody to be able to stamp. So throughout our company, we have a bunch of people who are electrical PEs, plumbing PEs, fire protection PEs, mechanical PEs, and they have their PE in 5, 6, 7 different states. And so you just have to check to make sure that you can transfer them from state to state, but it usually is just a fee. But like your professor said, sometimes you will have to like take it specifically in that state. There's certain states that have different requirements, but there is availability to transfer for the most part.
Okay. So like if you take like the FE, like I'm from New York, so if I took it in New York but then got a job in like say Connecticut, I would just work in Connecticut and I should be able to take the PE in Connecticut and be okay, you think?
I believe that's the case. I know I had
Yes.
several friends that did the same thing.
Yeah, I believe it's more so the PE is what's driven by the states.
Okay.
You need to get a stamp for that said state.
Okay, thank you.
Well,
I have a next question. Is the PEFE exam cognizant like the SATs? Meaning like if you answer, you get credit, and if you don't answer, you don't lose credit or like get credit?
no, I believe every question needs to have an answer allocated to it. It doesn't work in the sense of the other grading system, whereas they require every answer needs to be provided a response of some type. You can skip around, which is nice on the EIT. If you don't necessarily know an answer, it's not going to limit you where you have to provide one and then pass it. You can go back and flag questions to go back after the fact as you're approaching the end of your time or what have you, or as you recall a means of getting to that answer. But to answer your question, yes, every single question needs to have a response of some type.
All right, thank you.
And feel free, if anybody has any other questions regarding like our industry as well, feel free to ask, or you can follow up with us after this call and ask about our industry. It's one that's not really discussed often, but it's extremely prominent in all over. I mean, you could pick a city and you can find a firm, an engineering firm that you can work in, depending on where you want to be. You want to be in California, Florida, Connecticut, New York City, Boston, wherever. And thankfully, even during COVID, when the markets were having a hard time and jobs were at a minimum, we didn't slow down. Construction kept going. So it's kind of a unique engineering field to be in. But if anybody has any questions about our industry as well, feel free to ask.
I have a question about your firm. Do you handle skyscrapers, that sort of thing?
Yeah, so we do a lot of high-rise buildings in New York City. Our New York office handles a lot of that, but even in our Connecticut office, we have an entire residential sector that deals with doing a lot of building types like that, penthouses, different things like that within the city.
And do you do renewables such as solar and solar thermal and solar photovoltaic?
Yes, we do.
Very
Yes,
cool.
we actually have we have entire groups that are specialized in that. But most of our projects are moving on heavily towards geothermal, especially in the state of Connecticut, where we have the ability and the space to do that. Less so of an application in cities and more highly densified locations. But in Connecticut, where we have a decent amount of land and property to work with, we've been seeing a lot of geothermal. And even our office, we actually supplement about 40% of our office electrical usage based upon solar panels that are located on our building that we designed, as well as a small solar farm that's out on the field adjacent to our parking lot that we designed and used for our pretty much a big experiment on our own building.
Yeah, so the founder of our company, George, is very knowledgeable on solar, and he tries to push it on as many projects that are willing to hear about information about it and see what it could do for their buildings. So we do work with that very frequently.
One thing about
Sorry, my next question is about hiring. Do you recruit from Fairfield University?
So we actually are growing Fairfield alumni here. I think we're up to like 6, maybe 7. I think there's a kid in the senior class that may be starting with us in our New York office soon. But we do take interns and we do hire out of college. So if anyone is interested, I know students in the past have sent me their resume and I've forwarded it through HR. I'm not sure if we've had any representation at job fairs in the past, and I'm not sure if that's a plan for the future. But I do know that we definitely get a lot of interest from Fairfield, and people are more than willing to share their resumes with Cody and I, and we can get them into the right hands if anyone is interested in looking into this industry.
we do have a wonderful mentorship program here, where I know it's intimidating coming fresh out of school, especially where into an industry where we have thermal and heat transfer classes, but not necessarily classes that specify directly to our industry. So our mentorship program here, especially at CES, is wonderful, where we heavily work with the new graduates that get brought on as employees and bring them up to speed with the knowledge that they need to be successful, as well as bringing them up to speed with the front running technology in our industry and understanding PV systems, thermal, and everything. So that's one thing that I can really emphasize at our company here, that we are big on bringing up and growing young engineers.
So Mackenzie, would it be all right if I sent your email off to the students in case they might be interested in working for your firm?
Absolutely. And
Great.
I also know Fairfield has the, I believe it's called the Shadow Stag program, which is like the job shadow program. So I'm also a part of that as well. So I've had personal Zoom calls with students in the senior class and junior class this year, talking about our industry and talking about opportunities and different things like that. Because of COVID, we didn't have anyone come into the office. But typically part of that program is if you sign up and get paired with me, you can come in for a half day. You can see the different lifestyles that we have here and like the different 3D modeling programs that we use to design, and you can talk to different people within the company. So that's also an asset for people as well.
Good. And one other question I have is, are there formal classes for you guys to take in order to help train you for the FE exam?
Yes, so there is, you can sign up for different courses. I think they're usually between like $1,000 and $2,000. And it will actually go through the different topics and kind of like you're in a lecture in college, but it's preparing you for the exam. Some people find it very beneficial and some people don't. So it's definitely up to you to decide if that would be the best way for you to go. But they do offer those types of courses. And I know they were having in-person ones. I don't know since COVID if it's all Zoom or I'm not quite sure. But if you look it up, there are different courses that you can sign up for to help you study.
Very good.
I have the next question. What is the benefit to having your PE license as a cross trained discipline, meaning that I am a EE major and I have a PE license in, let's say, mechanical or like civil engineering? What is the benefit of actually doing so?
So that's a great question. So especially if you're an electrical engineer or mechanical, so your professional engineering license, although you took the exam, same thing with your EIT. If you take your EIT and you pass as a mechanical and you take your professional engineering license, your stamp does not specify that you took a mechanical or electrical. It's just a professional engineering license. So you can kind of cater the type of exam that you take towards your strengths and weaknesses. And as a mechanical engineer, I can stamp drawings that are not my discipline. So the whole thing with the PE is that you stamp within your scope of knowledge. And that's where you fall heavily back on your ethics courses, where you're required to self-regulate yourself in order to stamp things that fall within your scope of knowledge and your area of expertise. So you can certainly do that as an electrical engineering major. You can certainly take the mechanical exam. As far as the credential is concerned, there's really no large benefit being an electrical engineer and taking a mechanical professional engineering license. Aside from that, it might cater better towards your knowledge base and where your area of expertise is.
Excellent, thank you.
Could you say a word or two about the liability involved in stamping something that might be outside of your area of expertise?
Yes, so that's where it gets very tricky. So if you stamp something, and primarily what you hear a lot of is, it's your licensure. So typically what people will do is, it's a very important licensure. You can take out auxiliary units on your license, being that you're stamping drawings that can pertain to life safety, especially fire protection. You're putting your stamp and your name on a drawing that says that this building or this area is properly covered with water and sprinkler coverage in the event of a fire. And if somebody gets hurt or worse, the first person that they look back to is they look at the drawings and they look at whose name is on the drawing, and you have to be able to back up all of your determination, your calculations, and your decision-making process to get to that point and justify what you did and why you did it. So there's a lot of liability that comes with being a professional engineer.
Yeah, so you'll find a lot of times in our industry. So like I do plumbing and fire protection here, but I don't have a PE yet, so I can't personally stamp the drawings that I'm designing. So typically what happens is I'll get given a job and I'll design it fire protection wise, for instance, right? And then I give it to a person in my company and he reviews it. And then I'll pick up his comments and then he provides his stamp onto it. approving my design. And if he has questions as to like why I did something a certain way, he'll come talk to me about it and question it because it's his stamp going onto the drawings. So I may think that this room needs to be provided with this type of coverage, but ultimately he has the final say because it's his name that's going to be on the plans and it's his phone that's going to get the phone call when there's a problem within the building, and he's the one that's going to have to answer to it. So a lot of times if I'm questioning something in design, I'll go speak to him and get his opinion on the matter before I actually finalize my design, because he's the one that in the end will have to deal with the problems. So it's definitely something that you don't take lightly. You don't want to just like review a plan quickly and be like, yep, that works, that'll do. Because in construction, you're going to have code officials going out and checking the building to make sure that everything's designed per code. You're going to have state officials out there reviewing it. So you want to make sure that you're putting out the best design so that you never get that phone call, that everything goes smoothly and you can move on to your next job.
And it's a great process, really, because we do a lot of peer review here. So my job title, I'm a senior mechanical engineer. So one of my job responsibilities is a senior peer reviewer. So the drawings, once they're complete by another team, Mackenzie's not on my specific team, she's on another team. The drawings will then go to another person of that like discipline for a complete review, somebody who's not familiar with the project. So you start to ask the questions and generate, comments that, somebody who's very deep involved with that project might not have thought of because they're, looking at the same project for quite some time. You get a fresh set of eyes. So every set of drawings that leaves our office is conducted with a full scale peer review, which is great. It makes, I know I've caught a few things that I've learned, and I've caught a bunch of things from other people that review my drawings. And that's just continuing a form of continuing education, but it also manages the risk and liability for the documents that we send out.
So when you do a peer review, are you in a room with other engineers reviewing the design and presenting the design in a formal way?
No, typically what we do is we'll send either a PDF or print out a hard copy of our drawings and give it to that person. Some people prefer PDFs, some prefer hard copies. It really depends on the peer reviewer. And then occasionally if we have like a super complicated job that has a bunch of specific things that need to happen that you won't necessarily understand when you're looking at the drawings, you'll actually set up a meeting and go through the drawings so they have an understanding of the scope of work. So that happens a lot when we're doing like an existing building with renovations. They may not know the different problems that we've run into with the existing building. So you'll sit down and have a discussion with them to explain like, this is why I did this and this is why I did this. Whereas if they were just looking at it blindly, they may have just marked it like, this won't work type of thing. So there is always that constant communication. And then like if Cody's reviewing one of my jobs and sends me comments and I'm reviewing his comments and I don't understand why he thinks my design won't work, I'll walk over to his desk and we'll have a whole discussion about it, or we'll set up a meeting to have a discussion about it. So typically the peer reviewer does it by themselves, but then there's always a discussion afterwards about the comments and about the design to ensure that we're all on the same page.
Thank you. Are there any other questions?
Yeah, I think I have a general question. What is the statute of limitations if a problem does happen? Let's just say there's a building, and then again I'm the PE and I sign off on it, but then again 25 years later something happens, something in the building collapses. Am I still liable for it after 25 years?
Yeah, if it's your design that was compromised, most certainly. So I'll actually give you an example. Last year, or maybe even a year and a half ago, there was a concrete structure in Florida that collapsed. It was a hotel, and it was completely full of people. And the concrete was poured incorrectly. They weren't doing their proper tests that are mandated. for at least Connecticut to maintain proper consistency of the concrete, this, that, and the other thing. And it was a steel building and by the water, and it rotted, and it collapsed, and it killed people. The first person that they went after was the PE, his stamp on the drawing. They went after him, and and that's just a situation you never want to be in. So we work so hard here to make sure that we cross-check each other, and we make sure that our I's are dotted and our T's are crossed. Because that's certainly a position that you never want to be in, having your license questioned.
Thank you.
Is there business liability insurance that covers the practicing PEs in your firm?
Yes, there is.
So if they were to sue, in principle, the firm would be, perhaps its insurance company would be on the hook.
Yes, it's pretty much the same principle as if you were an automotive mechanic and you forgot to tighten the lug nuts on a tire, and the person drives off and tire falls off. You are operating underneath the company that you worked for, so they would be the first line of defense in order to mitigate that type of issue.
Gotcha. Well, are there any other questions from the students?